Gareth Davies, how are we, sir?
I am at home, my friend. I've been home for 3 days now. It's nice to be home and
Mm.
heading to America tomorrow for BKB 50, bare knuckle boxing. But I have enjoyed tremendously watching the weekend's events and things
Yes.
unfolding. But I hear you're away again.
Again, compared to you, yeah, I'm away a little bit. Yeah, I'm in Morocco. You know, obviously it was supposed to be Magnificent Seven, Moses Atama, Jermaine Franklin over the weekend. As soon as that got cancelled, I was like, you know what? I see a little gap here before it gets manic. Let me just hop away to Morocco, which is a lovely place. I've been here before. So I thought, yep, me and the missus decided just to get over here for a few days, take a pause, take a break, and then get back to the UK and kick some backside. So, yeah, I'm away. It was you. It was me being jealous of you being away every single weekend and taking a page out of your book. So I thought, why not?
Well done. And I take it it's warm there as well.
Warmer. It's not boiling, but it's warmer than the UK. It's certainly warmer than New York, where I see there's a bit of a snowstorm. But yeah, it's certainly warmer than the UK. The sun is shining. I'm going to go for a nice little walk in a minute, maybe go to the gym. So it's perfect conditions for me this time of the year.
I saw our friend Ak walking for coffee, absolutely covered in snow, wrapped up that like you couldn't recognize him. Did you see that little social media?
I did. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
It almost looked AI-ish.
yeah.
I couldn't believe how bad that was. And again, we're going to talk about Shakur and Tio a bit later, but there's a massive event there in a few days. And I saw that and I'm like, are people going to have trouble flying in or is that okay? I mean, because that looked severe. I haven't seen that since watching the movies in the 80s, a snowstorm like that. So that looked a bit crazy. So hopefully it doesn't impact anyone trying to fly in to JFK for the big one. But yeah, that looked a bit wild. Let's talk about the boxing over the weekend. There was quite a bit. Obviously, nothing marquee, but I guess Zufa putting on their first boxing event obviously created all the headlines. Just on that itself, how it looked, the product, everyone talking about that. I've seen so many people tweet things. How did you find it watching it?
Yeah, it looked like a UFC event, or it looked like a
Mm.
boxing event with a UFC duvet, didn't it? At the
Yeah,
at the
yes.
Meta Apex. So 700 people in there. It looked like a small. It reminded me of the Eddie Hearn Next Gen shows. There was nothing to really get your teeth into. It felt like quite a long card. Um, it wasn't overwhelming, but then again, it was a very soft launch, and obviously so because there were no major names headlining. In that traditional boxing way where it's top down, where you're waiting for the co-main and main events, and people have made all the points of the match. The matches were very well made, but
Mhm.
it was, as I say, a soft launch. Dana White admitted it himself. There's still a lot of work to do. It's something he's been excited about for a long time. It was surprising that they went for that kind of thing rather than a big event, but they
Yeah.
will get better. We'll have to suck it and see with them. They won't take long to make changes and make it better. And as we'll chat about in a minute, they're already making big signings and they'll make more and more and more. Yesterday, I was lying to you. Today, I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah, I do think their their idea, or at least what they kind of fed us, was the idea in terms of signings has completely changed. And as you say,
Yeah.
we'll talk about some of the big signings they've already done and signings they're certainly going for. I thought it was just okay as well. There was no glitz and glamour of a first event. There was no, I don't know, no pyrotechnics and anything. Obviously, it's inside, it's the Apex, it's a small venue. It was one that was used during lockdown. I'm surprised they went with the Apex, but I guess it means you don't have to pay for the venue, which does save on a couple of quid because it's theirs, it's right there. And I initially thought this is kind of what it was always going to be like a Callum Walsh, a Campo type event all the way through, but obviously not. I think they are going to go a lot bigger, and I think they're going to go really, really big soon. So I thought it was just okay. I thought it was just okay. It was um, plug in play, same weekend as a UFC event, and maybe all the eyes were really on that as opposed to being for Dana White anyway, on that as opposed to being on this Zufa launch.
Mm.
But I thought it was just fine. I think some people overreacted as to how it was, and I was like, "Did you watch what I watched?" But apart from that, it was just okay. And again, it will only get bigger from here on in.
Yeah, and I thought Dana White was very measured as well. He answered everything very well. He did that traditional Dana White press conference where he's asked a million questions in that UFC way, and he's the biggest star on that show, and he is a major star. So he was honest about the shortcomings, if you like, of the first event. There was always going to be a lot of attention on it. All the MMA media were writing about it. The boxing media were writing about it. There was probably a bit of oversell from people like Max Kellerman on the broadcast, like this is the invention of sliced bread here again. The wheel's just been invented. Yeah, but Max is there to do that. It's so obvious now. He's almost playing the heel in that character as he does on his boxing show, where he goes way out over here from the sublime to the ridiculous all the time, and it's a ploy now. It's a strategy, and it did grate a little bit eventually because he was driving it too much instead of looking what was right in front of him. We will get to those moments, I don't doubt, as Turki Al-Sheikh has stood there with Dana White and told us 10 months ago, we are going to take over boxing with this Zufa boxing with TKO, notwithstanding all the things in the background, like 6-year contracts that they're trying to get through Congress. I don't really agree with those kind of things. I agree with the increased pay and the increased level of security and health safety and insurance and all those things. 6-year contracts for me, which were also as part of the news last week, post our last show. That's too long a contract, I'm afraid, in my view. Yeah. Shouldn't be allowed to sign guys for 6 years. There was a bit of a uniformity about what they were all wearing on the night, not much individuality. Again, that's a UFC thing, branded uniforms, if you like. It's they're going to adapt and adopt very quickly, in my view, Ade. I think they will be successful.
Yeah, I think so as well, especially when we're starting to hear the names of people that are supposedly, again, these are all rumors or speculation, having conversations with them. We were led to believe that Alexander Usyk had a conversation with Dana White maybe a couple of weeks ago. We know Jar Pataya has signed. Jai did a face-off with Noel Mikalayan, the other champion in the cruiserweight division. So I'm guessing he's either signed or was going to sign. And there was big talk as well in the last 48 hours about Jesse Bam Rodriguez, pound for pounder, looking to sign, but now Matchroom having matched the offer that Zufa have done, so he now stays. But the fact they're going for a Jesse Bam Rodriguez type shows to me that they will try and sign everyone.
Yeah.
That's it now. No one's off the table.
Yeah, top down and bottom up is the way they'll go, and they've signalled that. They signalled that. I was the first to speak to Jai last week. Mick Francis called me. I jumped on a Zoom with Jai. It was great to see him and chat to him. He's one of the lovable lunatics in our sport, and the guy who could easily be a superstar. He said he was delighted to be over there. Eddie Hearn struck one back for himself, like you say, by holding on to Bam Rodriguez. But I think we're going to see a lot of this. And I think what we'll get is within 3 or 4 months, we'll get tentpole events every month, once a month, with a big name on the headliner and all those kind of developing names underneath it. The normal boxing model, if you like. But remember how deep the pockets and deep the ambition of Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White is for this. Lorenzo Fertitta was ringside on Saturday night. I saw him there as well. I've known the two men a very long time. And Lorenzo is a boxing guy as well as Dana. They're boxing guys way back in the past. It won't take long for them to get the juggernaut moving. It's going to be a fascinating year to see the jiggling and the juggling that people do and the enmities that are created. Later on today, I'm speaking to Mauricio Suleiman. He wanted to chat and put something out there because the WBC are kind of headlining and spearheading the 4 other sanctioning bodies because they're concerned about their position at the moment. I think it's going to be for us as observers of the sport. I know you call yourself a fan, but what we do is observe the sport as well on our shows and what we do in talkSPORT and on your YouTube channel and so on. And we will get some very interesting things happening this year.
I just don't see, and I almost feel like Turkey's taken a backward step in terms of being the face, if you like. That's now, okay, Dana, it's you to do that. Turkey still does his interviews, but it certainly isn't as many as it once was, right? I just don't see how this just isn't Riyadh season. Turkey's made relationships with all the fighters, personal relationships with all the fighters. And I just don't see how all those fighters, if they have one or two fights left, don't eventually just sign for Zufa boxing.
Yeah.
And that pay structure that was put out by Dana a few months ago, that's obviously bogus. And they just get paid big money and sign with Zufa. I just don't see how that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, you look at what's happened. In virtually the entire heavyweight division has been showered with gifts. Yes, through the prism of other promoters over the last 2.5 years. You know, I mean, I'm not saying this will happen, but I'm just throwing it out there. Wouldn't surprise me if Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury were bought out by Dana White and Turkey and it ended up on Netflix as a Zufa boxing event. It wouldn't surprise me, because they've got the cash to do it. Money and timing in boxing, along with ego. You know, it's like a mantra for me. It's what I've seen so many years in the sport, that, you know, that people go where the money is. You look at that whole heavyweight division. You look at the Mexican card. I'm talking to what you're talking about now, about how how Turkey has showered payment gifts, purses on virtually everyone around the world. The Mexican element, look back over it, the nuanced layers of the Mexican element, the samurai knights, the Russian fighters, the heavyweights, they've all been bestowed gifts by him, Canelo and Crawford. So if he wants to bring his pool of friends from boxing into Zufa boxing, it's not going to be that difficult.
So, and this is, I guess, look, no one really knows the answer to this, so it's a difficult question. Is Riyadh season events then a thing of the past? Because why put it on for Riyadh season when really and truly you can just have all those fighters funneled over to Zufa boxing?
Well, how many Riyadh season cards were there last year? 5, 6?
Yeah. Wasn't that before, I think?
Yeah. How many are scheduled this year?
None. There was going to be an AJ one, but that's obviously no longer.
That's true. There isn't. There was going to be one. Correct. That was muted, wasn't it? Yeah. So I'm sure we'll get 3 or 4 tentpole events a year there when they want them around the opening of Riyadh season. The opening. Remember the prism for that has always been, the prism is Saudi Arabia and its growth in the world and its investment and its Joy Awards, and which have just snuck up on us again, by the way, and just happened. Another one of Turkey's, Turkey Al-Sheikh's inventions. So I think they'll still bring a big event there every now and again, but I think America is their target now. America is the next target for the Saudi Arabian presence, if you like, through sporting and maybe even cultural endeavour. But it's, again, what it does for us is allows us to look into what is a geopolitical situation as well, a cultural scenario. It's not just, it's bigger than boxing for the Saudi Arabians. It's a cultural move from the east to the west to have a platform there, and I think they're very, very successful at it.
Yeah, and I think it will succeed, as many have said. All right, let's switch gears and talk about the big boys, the heavyweight division, and someone that's been in the limelight in the last, I don't know, almost 2 decades now, Derek Chisora. He's got his final fight that he wanted. He's got a big name in the ring as well. The big name is the bronze bomber, Deontay Wilder. The fight is likely to happen in April. We're still awaiting an official date, but it will be April, and it won't be on DAZN. It won't be with Frank Warren. It won't be with Eddie Hearn. It will be with the Sauerlands. And a lot of people, Gareth, are saying it's going to be with this Misfits Pro organization. Obviously, that's looked after by KSI, and this is going to be their first big event. Vidal Riley potentially on the undercard. I mean, this is them coming out of a bang. This is how you make a statement. Misfits Pro, headlined by Chisora versus Wilder.
And maybe on Sky Box Office, people are saying as well.
Wow.
So maybe a pay-per-view event. I think it's an O2 Arena. I don't think it's a stadium fight. I think if they go for that kind of size venue, it'll work. I think they really need to sell it. I think they need a strong undercard. And the fact it's Misfits and it's the Zauerlands who are working with Misfits and it's KSI, I think if it's going to work, it needs to have that kind of resonance to it. It needs KSI involved. It needs a bit of drama and a bit of theatre, a bit of a street fight with Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora on the cobbles by the Albert Hall or down in Soho somewhere. It needs a bit of drama. It needs some storytelling. And maybe it needs, I don't know, a Darren Till on the undercard against a Carl Froch. Or that's probably too big in terms of what they'll need money-wise. But I think I like it. But it needs to be platformed right. Deontay's always been a big star over here in the UK until he lost to Tyson Fury. When he walked down the street here, people really loved and noticed him. And I remember talking to him about that. You will have a recognition and a love that he's never had in the United States, frankly, which has always been a mystery to most of us. So as long as they can get over this hurdle of Frank Warren saying that Derek's still under contract, I'm sure we get there and we get a great fight in April.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an intrigue and build up both characters. And that's what boxing maybe lacks at the moment, characters. And both of these people have built up their fandom, if you like, over the years, just because of what they've done in the ring. And both of them have done really good in the ring. I guess the question is, what's left of Deontay Wilder? I think we all can see what Chisora has left, and Chisora will give every ounce of what he's got left. With Wilder in his last couple of fights, not counting the one he had against Terrell Herndon, I think people are questioning what's left. This is what Chisora had to say about that, just that. What is left with Deontay Wilder?
Listen, he went through some stuff with his ex-wife, even wrote a song for his ex-wife, and then suddenly that song became #1. And then, when you go through a divorce and you go through a hard, painful situation and you're still fighting, it kind of takes that venom away from everything you're doing. And now he's the guy I speak to almost sometimes. He's back on track now, So, and he came out on a podcast talking about how this broke him, how this mentally disturbed his mind in boxing. And then after he lost 2 fights, she goes to him, I don't want to be with you. She left him, So, listen, the guy I'm fighting now is a different guy that Zhang and Joseph Parker boxed, So yeah. I'm telling him.
Chisora believes there is quite a bit left. He thinks that, Wilder's issues were more outside the ring that then transpired inside the ring. Obviously, look, we know he's had issues in his personal life. That's now been put to bed. I do wonder, though. I mean, he is 40. He doesn't want to pull the trigger anymore. I was there for his last couple of big fights against Joseph Parker and the Zhili Zhang one where he fell to throw that right hand against Zhang, got stopped in that fight. What is left with Deontay Wilder? Or should we just expect that these are two guys that have deteriorated, no longer what they were, but it will still be a fun fight?
Yeah, I think that's the way to put it. Is a fun fight is a good way to put it. If we can call two giant men fighting each other fun. Yeah, I would like you. I was there and live for both those catastrophic defeats for Deontay. Very close to the. I'm working commentary on them for talkSPORT. Joseph Parker put up a brilliant performance that night, and I actually remember interviewing. Obviously, the problems that Deontay's had in his marriage and so on, and says he's over that now and. He felt betrayed and he's in a good place. I remember interviewing Tally Swift that night as well, ringside, round at the Turkey Al Sheikh VIP seats. And they were very much an entity. I can remember her screaming for him, by the way, to get out of the way, baby, get out of the way. Well, I mean, it was a very exciting fight against Joseph Parker because we still believe Deontay was the guy that, boom, could absolutely put your lights out. But then the Zhili Zhang fight, I remember having those feelings, Ade, of, oh, this is terrible to watch. He can't even throw a punch. And Zhili Zhang was just lining him up. And as you've laughed about, as I've described it, he got run over like a herd of wildebeest in the end. That's what Zhili Zhang was like when he came charging across the ring to finish him. And we just thought, I mean, weirdly, prior to those fights, Turki Al-Sheikh was being interviewed in the ring saying, right, we're going to get Deontay Wilder against Anthony Joshua if he wins. Remember, it was being set up with the jinx of Turkey at the time, wasn't it? So, yes, Terrell Herndon, I count that as a fan going in with him and letting him beat him almost, you know? So he's back in winning ways. But Derek's got to say that Deontay Wilder's back. I mean, when I was out at the IBA conference in Dubai in December, and when you've got these guys out there, when you've got Shannon Briggs out there and Rampage Jackson and Derek Chisora and Deontay Wilder, and they're all knocking around together in the same space, these guys are mega personalities. And that's the key to this fight. Honestly, we had such fun. Shannon was there with his wife as well. And these guys, you've been around them. These guys are giant personalities. They're not just giant men. Deontay is a wonderful human being to be around. Derek is lunacy itself and wisdom itself. And he's Shakespeare's fool at times, isn't he? He's the guy that tells everybody the truth. He'll bust into an interview. 100%. And we need all of that to really sell this contest. I mean, we could do with a Shannon Briggs versus Rampage Jackson on that card as well. The reason I'm trying to promote here in my head, if you like, that to make it a success, they need to sign the fight, get it moving, announce the card, do a multi-day press conference for it. Derek saying there should be a belt on the line. I'm not sure about that. I mean, I've already expressed my views on it. I don't think it does merit a belt because of what I've just described about Deontay Wilder. But for me, there should be something on that, like a BMF boxing belt or something. I'm not sure which, but how you do it. But I'm not sure it merits a belt because this is an event.
Yeah, no, you're right about it not meriting a belt, and that's not a slight on Chisora. That's on Wilder. Chisora maybe does. Chisora's been highly ranked in the IBF, but it's Wilder's factor in this event, which means for me there is no belt. I think one of the most intriguing subplots for this is Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk for the past 2 months has called out Deontay Wilder, yet the unified heavyweight champ of the world can't get Wilder, yet Chisora can, which says a lot to me about Usyk's star power, because I've always looked at Usyk as the guy that fills stadiums now. Yet he's clearly openly chased the Wilder fight, and I don't think he's found anyone to put it on. That's what I think. I think financially, everyone's decided we can't do it. Chisora is a bit cheaper than Usyk, and I think Misfits Pro said, okay, we can. How crazy is it that the unified heavyweight champ of the world can't get Wilder, yet Chisora can?
Well, Usyk Wilder might have worked here, but it's clearly not working in America. There's no resonance for Wilder. And obviously, Usyk's at a point where his team want him to earn maybe minimum 30, 40 million for an outing, maybe US dollars, that is. And maybe that doesn't resonate in America. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. That's the problem. You're not going to get... You'll get 20,000 Ukrainians to the T-Mobile Arena, but you won't get 70,000 Ukrainians to the Allegiant Stadium to do that in...
Agreed.
So Usyk's gone there. Like, he's being touted to everyone at the moment. We know he's had talks with Zufa Boxing as well, which we alluded to earlier. Now we're obviously talking about it. Andy Ruiz, they're talking about potentially being in the frame to fight Usyk in America. That's
horrendous.
It is, but it gets the Latin American audience involved, and that's you look at the business of it. It's not a fight I particularly want to see. I think, Andy Ruiz is long gone in many ways. His days of beating. It's 7 years ago that he beat Anthony Joshua in New York, and he's not done a lot since. I thought Jarrell Miller beat him on the Los Angeles card that I was again live at. I'm pretty sure you were as well, but it was Jarrell was really good that night, and I thought he lost. Andy Ruiz lost. Yes, maybe that works, but they're talking about it at the moment. And to that point, Tyson Fury's doing Kempo karate at the moment in Thailand, which is quite funny in his gi. He's gearing up for maybe Marslan Makhmudov or 3 or 4 others in the frame. Anthony Joshua's back in the gym. Zhilei Zhang potentially is going to fight Daniel Dubois. Fabio Wardley's without a fight at the moment. And I always liked Fabio Wardley and Derek Chisora, if I'm brutally honest. I liked that as a contest. I thought that sold out Portman Road outdoors, 30,000 in April, and I thought that would be the big event. So the heavyweight division, Ajit Kabayel doesn't have an opponent at the moment. Maybe that's the Wardley fight. The division is exciting. The division will have a good year. Moses is back out in March. But we need these fights made, and we need those names, all those names I mentioned, announced and in fights, because they must capitalise on this year, because it's potentially another huge year for the heavyweight division.
I think, and look, to kind of go back a few steps there, the Usyk chasing Andy Ruiz, and I get it. He wants this American fight, and I think me and you were going down the list, and Wilder was the biggest American name, and Andy Ruiz probably is the second biggest, especially considering Jarrell Miller fights on the weekend. There are no other American heavyweights, really, Jared Anderson sort of aside. But I think it's obvious now, if you're Usyk, that the ship needs to steer to Germany and Agit Kabayel. Like, almost by force, it's happening. Wilder's been taken away from you. I don't think Ruiz will sell because he's not the Ruiz, as you said, of 5, 6, 7 years ago. He's had 3 fights in 7 years, Andy Ruiz, 3. And I think he lost his last one. Agit Kabayel has shown what he can do in Germany against a nobody, no disrespect, in Damian Neba. I think that's the thing. Maybe Usyk's price and number might need to come down a little bit, because without Turkey's involvement, I just don't see where he gets that $30 million from. But I just feel like there are 2 heavyweight champions, or one in Wardley out there, and an interim in Kabayel. And you just said it yourself. Neither of these guys have opponents. They're not going to fight each other. I think Alexander Usyk has to fight one of those guys.
Yeah, there's Ricardo.
I just think
yes,
he has to.
Sorry for interrupting. The only other guy in America at the moment, apart from ones you mentioned, is Ricardo Torres, isn't it? You know, who's starting to hover around top 10, top 12. Meritocratically, I don't know, but again, he's not a name there. I don't know whether, for me, the way I looked at it, I was thinking about it at the weekend when I was watching the Zufa boxing, was Usyk and his team have just gone to America that little bit too early. They were a little bit late to the party after boxing got quite big in America, again with the 3 fights with Fury and Wilder over that space of 3 years, 2018 to 21, 22. And he's a bit early to the party now in America for the heavyweight division right now, because, you know, he needs something to capture imagination. You need that market to be there. People aren't going to travel, apart from Ukrainians. Yeah. They'll travel across the country, and I'm sure there's 150,000 Ukrainians. I haven't looked it up in America, and I'm sure there's enough to fill a blooming stadium. Certainly the T-Mobile Arena with 20,000. But it's maybe we need to start critiquing what Alexander's doing, because everyone's given him a buy, given him a pass for a period of time now, since, what is it? It's 7-8 months he's been out now. We're all giving him a pass because we love him so much and he's so venerated in the sport. Maybe we need to start putting a bit of pressure on that he needs to defend those belts in the division now. And maybe that time has come. And maybe America isn't the right place right now for a big Alexander Usyk fight.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I think we all appreciate what he's done in the sport of boxing. It's been incredible. And just him as a person, especially considering his country was going through war and he was almost like the figurehead of it, right? He was almost the focal point and was always speaking about it. But that aside, we love him for his boxing, and he's always been the next man up guy. Like, who's next? Especially in the cruiserweight division, I will fight them. And I almost feel like I don't like this idea of Wilder, Ruiz, and any other name he's mentioning. There are 2 guys out there who are deserving. Fabio Wardley because of chinning Joseph Parker, and Agit Kabayel because of what he's done and the fact he's interim WBC heavyweight champion. I just feel like both of them deserve an opportunity. And if I'm them and I'm hearing Ruiz and Wilder, I'm like, oh, what's going on? What's this? 2010? How Ruiz and Wilder in discussions when we're here? So hopefully it all gets sorted. Go on.
I was going to say as well, and at the moment, the way that rhythm is with Alexander Usyk, we may end up seeing Fabio Wardley, if he defends his belt, fighting Tyson Fury in the summer, because you can see the movement, the machinations for that in the summer. Fabio fencing it, Tyson Fury fencing it. Fury lovers going, no, he'll deal with Wardley easily. But us knowing that Wardley carries dangers for Tyson Fury at 38. And again, that's a big fight for us this summer if that does happen.
Yeah.
And then what it does is it squeezes Usyk out. And Usyk's played that game by saying, if I fight Tyson Fury in a trilogy, he needs to have a world title because it needs to be undisputed. So there's a route in Fury's mind to face Usyk if he doesn't fight Anthony Joshua. I don't think Fury will fight Usyk again. I think it'll be Fury and Anthony Joshua. I hope so anyway, because I think that's an enormous fight for us. And as I said at the top, for some reason, after being at the Netflix event with Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, I've got a feeling that fight will end up on Netflix.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, all bets are off now. I feel like all fights can go anywhere.
Yeah.
I just feel like, yeah, I no longer believe everything's going to the zone like I once did a couple of years ago. I genuinely believe anything can go anywhere now because that's just how the boxing model works. Very quickly, final one. Who will Alexander Usyk fight?
Well, I mean, we've ruled out Andy Ruiz, Deontay Wilder, Fabio Wardley. I hope they turn the full circle here and they think, do you know what? It's not going to work over here. Let's get the Fabio Wardley fight on and let's do it in a stadium in the UK in the early spring. And I hope it's Fabio.
Yeah, I think that's the one that does the stadium. Fabio Agit, I'm not mad at either, especially after being in Germany and those noise from those Kurdish fans. I've no, like that would be an insane atmosphere. And what Fabio's done, it would be the complete Rocky story for him to be, in fact, to be better than a Rocky movie. For him to fight Alexander Usyk in a stadium would be insane. A couple of big world title fights this weekend. Obviously, the big one, the super fight, MSG, Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson. Fantastic. I'll be in Sunderland for Josh Kelly looking to try and take over the monster Bakram Matazalv. Won't be easy, that one, but who knows? Home support behind him. Let's see if he can do something. But let's talk about the super fight first. Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson. Shakur trying to become a four-weight world champion. This is what we've been waiting for in America, right? We've been talking about this five kings, if you like, or Fab Five for ages. And we have seen some mix. We have seen it. Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta was probably the first, but this one feels bigger. This just feels like we're getting two guys, no excuses, age-wise at their peak of their powers, and they're going head-to-head. And I think Eddie said, or I saw something on Eddie's social media saying this is now sold out. And this is what America needs, a big fight, two good guys, two very vocal guys, but more importantly, two very good boxers.
Yeah, in their prime. Can I add those three words as well? The five kings, let's just mention them, because for those listening that don't know, and if you've been if you're a boxing fan and you're listening to this or watching this, you know, it's these two guys, Teo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Davis, who's kind of in the wilderness at the moment, Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. You can throw Keyshawn Davis into this. Well, I think he's on the card as well, isn't he? Main Ortiz is on the card as well. It's a really big event.
They're fighting each other. Keyshawn and Jermaine.
And that's, again, the winner of that maybe goes into the big six. You could argue. So, and Dalton Smith is going to be ringside, and Conor Benn's going to be ringside, I'm hearing as well. So there's a lot of gunpowder under the ring in this event. There's a lot that come in. We might even get Dalton Smith and Conor Benn at welterweight at some point, depending on what happens. So we shall see. But yes, this is the fight that doesn't just open the door, it opens the portals potentially to a mega event. They were trying to do it in Times Square last year when they did that brilliant event in the middle of Times Square that didn't kind of fulfill all the wishes of Turkey Al-Sheikh in the end, even though it was brilliantly ambitious at the time. They're in the right place now, the magic dust of Madison Square Garden. They're a very, very knowledgeable audience, and I've been going there for 30 years to Madison Square Garden, and it has never disappointed. Drama happens there. These two men, Eddie, this is probably, unless you had Bam Rodriguez against Naoya Inoue, the third fight between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol, maybe Alexander Usyk and Moses Itauma. If you announced all those fights today, everyone would be salivating. We're salivating at this one. This is a similar kind of event. Arguably the biggest and best matchup in boxing right now. in real terms, in gold, in actual gold, not in business terms. It will sell out the arena. It is an amazing fight for Teo Lopez because he's the bigger man. He's the bull in this fight, but he's also a genius. He has genius footwork. Yeah. And I'm going to throw this back to you. I was mesmerized by his performance against Vasyl Lomachenko. I was mesmerized and working on the event when he beat Josh Taylor at Madison Square Garden. They were both southpaws, very skilled southpaws. Shaka is a very skilled southpaw. Teo knows how to fight a southpaw, and this guy is smaller than him, doesn't hit as hard as him, and yet, I still feel Shaka can do this.
No, okay. Shakur can definitely do this, but I think Teo's going to do this. I just feel like I think Shakur's a phenomenal talent. And look, there's a part of me that wants to be wrong because I do want him to go on and be the next Floyd, next Terrence, whatever. I think he's got all that about him. But I almost feel like we are, not me and you, but I think a lot of the boxing fraternity are kind of underrating who Teo is. Teo is an incredible athlete, never out of shape, strong mindset now. Now I see him and his dad's almost in the shadows, a bit like Eubank. Now it's almost a Teofimo Lopez show as opposed to his dad's show. I just feel like he's mentally a lot stronger than he once was. Those two victories that you just mentioned are incredible victories. Incredible. I mean, Josh Taylor was a favorite going over to America, and Lomachenko was certainly a favorite. Again, two southpaws, very slick. I mean, as good as Shakur is he as slick as Loma? I don't think he...
All right, let me throw this at you. Who would have won in their prime at super feather between Shaka and Vasyl?
Vasyl.
There you go.
Vasyl.
There you go.
Vasyl. Yeah. And Shakur, he's obviously grown into the 140-pound weight, it looks like. But he's not a 140-pounder. I've spoken to him a few times about jumping up in weight because I'm like, everyone else is going up. And he's like, look, I'm fine at 135. They said, always tells me, don't forget the weight I came from. I'm not a big guy. He's almost going up because he couldn't get the fights at 135. They're not exciting. They're not sexy fights. Floyd Schofield's not a sexy fight for him, nor is Abdullah Mason. And the only reason he was at 135 was Tank Davis, and he couldn't get that. Whereas Teo was going to go to 147. So in the ring on the night, Teo's going to be significantly bigger. I don't think he's going to be scared of Shakur's power. And if it's a boxing match, yes, you edge to Shakur, but that's not saying that Teo can't box. I think this is going to be an incredible matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I support and can't resist any of those things you're saying. Instinctively, I'm going to go for Shaka Stevenson. I think he's the 48-52 underdog in this fight, even though he's the favourite with the bookmakers. Yeah. I think it's going to come down to fine margins. I'm going Shaka on points in this fight, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's manhandled by Teo and Teo does end up being dominant physically in the fight, if not technically in the fight. And so it wouldn't surprise me. I see both men capable of winning, but I'm going to go with Shakur because I want him to raise that level and get his timing in the mid-range to the point where he's outstriking Teo and outmaneuvering him. He can't sit on the ropes and play possum against Teo. He's got to take the centre of the ring. When I think about Teo's feet dancing, and you know the dancing he does in training, he's got
Muhammad Ali shuffles.
Unbelievable movement. Also, he's got that screw loose like Tyson Fury has, like Alexander Usyk has, where, and I know he's talked about suicide and death a few times as well in his life, in a weird way that he's prepared to die when he goes in there. He's not someone... He's embraced his fear and his butterflies to the point where he does get genius out of himself. He's also, and I wanted to make this point with you today, he's also had that loss against George Kambosos where he was put down early in the fight and he never recovered. Yeah. So he's been through that learning curve. Shakur hasn't had that loss. So it's a fascinating and fantastic contest. I'm just going to instinctively go on Shakur, who I think could rise, as you say, to be the next Mayweather, Crawford, Pernell Whitaker, Sugar Ray Leonard, if he defeats Teo Lopez. But also, it wouldn't surprise me, Ade, if it's a controversial split points decision either way, and we get it again, and maybe again.
Yeah. But the issue with getting it again is that, as you mentioned, the number of people, number of fighters that are ringside all wanting their shot. There's going to be 5 or 6 fighters like hands up saying, no, 1 second. And these are all big name fights as well. Play a game with me here. If Shakur wins, considering that you've got him as a marginal underdog, again, trying to become a 4-weight world champion, where does he jump to in the pound for pound rankings if he does get it done?
Very closely up there with in the top 3 or 4. And there's an argument that he slides in at 3 behind Noya Nui and Alexander Usyk, because Terence is now out of it, retired. But I think he's coming back, by the way, with Zufa boxing at some point.
Yeah. So there's no argument to be made about him going to pound for pound number 1 if he becomes a 4-weight world champion and beats the recognized number 1 in the division in Teo.
It's the how he does it. If he goes in there and he's majestic and extraordinary and Teo barely lays a glove on him and he doesn't get damaged and he completely outboxes him and he shows that the silky kind of southpaw skills that he has and he's clinical, I think you can make an argument. But if just based on a victory over Teo, I think he moves up to 3, 4.
Yeah, it's fascinating, honestly. Honestly, can't wait for it. It's a big fight. Good undercard as well. You mentioned Keyshawn Davis there, Jermaine Ortiz, Jarrell Big Baby Miller is back on the undercard as well. There's a few other good ones. Carlos Adames is fighting Ammo Williams.
Yes.
They've really stacked this card. And it's a shame that neither of us are going to be at MSG. I'm in Sunderland. You're doing your bare knuckle thing. Where's the bare knuckle again?
Miami.
No more Claudia Trejos. I
No,
see.
Claudia's gone to the UFC now, so that's going to be interesting. She's going to be doing UFC Spanish. Good luck to her. Always been wonderful to work around her with.
On the weekend.
Yeah,
indeed. All right, let's quickly end the show, by talking about Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly has his world title fight. This is what he's been asking for. He finally gets it against maybe the scariest fighter in the division in Bakram Matazalv, who just looks almost reminds me of a Khabib that can box. He's got that kind of scary look about him. How do you think Josh gets on in this one?
It doesn't surprise me that Bakram Matazalv is scary, by the way. I mean, when he was growing up, he was in Grozny, Chechnya, which was one of the most dangerous places in the world at the time. I think they were it was one of the 7 most dangerous places in the world. Obviously, war going on there when he was growing up. I did his debut in America, by the way. He was on the undercard of Andre Ward's and Sergei Kovalev. I want to say that's 10 years ago. I think it was. It was either 10 or 9 years ago. And he's a gentleman as well, by the way, even though he's a monster in the ring. A very, very dangerous fight. 75% of his fights are won by knockout, 17 knockouts in 23 victories, still undefeated, obviously lives in America now. Josh needs to be really on his game for this, Ade. He's got to have all those skills and the movement and also show some power and get the respect of Matazalv early in the fight and start to try and confuse him if he can. Adam Booth and Josh Kelly I really like as a union, as a combination. But this is a very tough night in front of his home crowd.
Yeah, this is tough. I remember watching Josh's fight against Troy Williamson, and look, I'm not comparing Troy to Bakram, but Troy was very much on the front foot as well. And I think Josh boxed so well that night. And I think that's probably his best performance in his whole career. He needs to be that and then some, I think, just to survive in this fight. He's probably the better boxer, but I think we've seen with Josh in recent fights that gas tank, for some reason, drops off very quickly. I saw it when I was watching him against Ishmael Davis. And he looked like he was going to destroy Ishmael, and then eventually Ishmael started to get to him. Got the win in the end, but Ishmael got to him. So, look, he's going to need to be really, really, really good. But you never know. Crowd behind you. I don't know how many will be up there in Sunderland, but crowd behind you, who knows, right? I mean, maybe Adam Booth has found some sort of game plan to see him through this one.
Yeah, I mean, when Dalton Smith defeated Subriel Matiz, the Puerto Rican, we all said what a great performance it was abroad. We all forgot the Carl Frampton, Leo Santa Cruz victory as well, which is one of the great performances abroad. And I want to give Carl his props for that. That template is where he boxed when Leo Santa Cruz fought, and he fought when Leo Santa Cruz boxed to win that fight, is what Josh needs to do against Matazalv, in my view, to win the fight. I'm not sure he will stop Matazalv, but he needs to be ahead, as you said, gas tank notwithstanding. He needs to be ahead going into the last 3 rounds by a couple of rounds to have the momentum in the fight in order to win it. Because I think he can win it on points, but he needs to put dents in Matazalv as well as outbox him. And we know how elusive and clever he is. But he's going to have to engage at some point and win the exchanges.
All right, there you go. 2 big world title fights. You have been listening to Find It Extra on talkSPORT 2. Big thanks to Gareth for joining me today. Safe travels to Miami for BKB. What is it, BKB 50?
It's their 50th event, exactly. 3 world title fights on the line. An amazing guy called Aaron McCallum, who was with us on Fight Night on talkSPORT on Saturday night, who was a bodybuilder, lapsed into drunkenness, and his wife said to him one day, "I've organised a bare knuckle fight for you. You're in it." And he said, "Yeah, all right then." Didn't know who was fighting, got beaten up. He said it's changed his life, and now he is an amazing character from Nottingham, and he fights over there as well. He's our one Brit on the card.
Look at that. That's what we like, the stories that come with fighting. All right, remember, if you've missed any of this show, you can listen to it as a podcast. Find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. As always, we'll be back next week.